All right, everybody, welcome to Hidden in Plain Sight. I am your not so humble host, Moral Bob. And on today's episode, I have a really special guest that has opened my eyes in a way I really didn't think was ever going to happen. Um, he's the host of Deep in the Rabbit Hole, as well as the Flat Earth podcast. I have the man, Flat Earth Dave, with me today. How's it going,
Good
Dave?
morning, Bob. How's it going? Good. It's crazy, and you said it, man. The name of your show, Hidden in Plain Sight. Everything's hidden right in plain sight. It's right in front of our eyes, and once you see it, you wonder how you never saw it before.
Yep. They tell us everything. It's all right there, right? So,
The world is a stage. They write the plays, they write the movies, and then they play it out on the world stage. It's amazing.
yep, and everybody just falls for it. Everybody's asleep. I have gotten I think I told you in an email. Um, I recently went full-fledged flat Earth. Well, let
Once
me
you see
preface
it, you
that.
can't.
I
Once you
know
see it, you can't unsee it.
I know for a fact, a verifiable fact, we are not spinning.
We're not
Like
spinning,
you
and
can
we're
just
not on a
verify it
globe.
super. Yeah,
Yeah,
you could verify it really easily.
right.
And I have a brother that I convinced he was a statist, loved cops, loved public school, and I got him to be an anarchist. And so when I was going down this journey, I was like, you know what? There's one person I'd like to talk to about this. It's my brother. He's got an open mind. He immediately started calling me an idiot. He immediately said everybody I'm listening to is morons and gave all the typical, you know, BS Glober rebuttals that are easily debunked. And just because you can do these experiments, it doesn't prove that what we're standing on isn't flat and not spinning. It just proves that something is moving, right? So when they do experiments with the sun, he said something, and I was like, man, all you're proving is that the sun moves, not that we're moving. And he couldn't grasp that concept. Ended up blocking me on everything. And I don't understand why this topic triggers people so much.
I, I that's the biggest question, and it's because we're taught that the earth is a ball before we could even speak. We're taught as a baby, the books that are read to us, the cartoons they put us in front of. The half the baby sheets have planets on them, and kids have mobiles over their heads of solar systems. And every movie we've ever seen, and everything is space. And cartoons. I mean, as Russian Vid says, truth in the movies, lies in the news,
Yep.
and when your whole world foundation is built on these lies, it's hard to unwrap that, and it's triggering because it makes you feel unstable. But the truth is, if you live in a heliocentric spinning ball world, you are unstable because you're spinning out of control, lost in space.
I, well, I don't understand why anarchists are so opposed to this idea either. So you're telling me you distrust government in everything except this one thing. They're telling the truth about this one thing. And my wife
It's
said
a
a
it's a
very
foundation. It's a foundational belief. They make up a lie, then they write papers on it, then they gather those papers together and they put it in a book. Then everything's based off of that book because the book is a fact. So it's facts on top of facts on top of facts, which is really just nonsense on top of nonsense, which they call facts.
right. I mean, my wife said something very profound the other day. She said, one lie exposed is enough to question every truth. And
Absolutely.
if if you're able to see some things that have broken the way that you've thought your whole life and you're able to go in that direction, where's the I just don't understand the barrier. Because I when I was presented with flat earth originally, I was like, the typical,
Welcome to my
well, I'm
world.
open-minded, and I'm open-minded, so I was like, all right, let's hear a good argument. And this girl I was talking to, she gave me this argument about flat earth, and she said what convinced me was flight patterns. And I was like, okay, but how do you explain X, Y, and Z, like satellites? And she didn't have answers for some of the stuff that I said. But I was like, okay. And then I heard you on a podcast, I forget which one, it was maybe a year or two ago, and you gave a really solid sound argument with the numbers and everything. I think you even started out, you were like, okay, the earth is spinning at 1,000 miles an hour, revolving the sun at 65,000 miles an hour, which is going through the galaxy at 500,000 miles, which is traversing through the universe at 1.2 million miles an hour. Do we have to keep talking about this, or have I
It's
smashed
over,
it?
Johnny.
And I was just like, wow, like when you really throw the numbers out there, they're ludicrous.
Right. You're familiar with the Georgia Guidestones, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's the hole in the Georgia Guidestones. You look through it, and there is Polaris. It never moves. It's been up for over 40 years. Do a time lapse, and all the stars spin around it. If we're spinning, twirling, whirling, corkscrewing through an infinite universe, traveling in one direction 4.4 billion miles a year, which is a curved trajectory, how the heck could Polaris be lined up through that little hole?
Not only that, stars would be whizzing by us so fast
But they're
that
so
we
far
wouldn't be able to
away, and
pick
they're
out.
there.
Right?
They were there billions of years ago.
They're so far away. So I was at a party on Friday or Saturday night with some friends who are all anarchists, and my producer was there, and I was telling him, because I told him, I was like, man, I think I'm a flat earther, and he was like, I knew it, because when I changed the name of my podcast, he was like, man, 6 months he's going to be a flat earther. I was like, okay. But I told him, I said, look, man, there's an experiment that you can do tonight that's super easy. I said, when it gets dark, look up. We're clearly not moving at 1,000 miles an hour. And that's what his rebuttal was, but the stars are so far away. And I said, yeah, but how are they going along with us in this journey through space? How are they staying like that? And nobody can answer that shit.
They never change. Well, their answer is because they're so far away, and then they throw in well, they're not really there. It's the light coming from them, and their brain just disconnects, because even if that was true, it still doesn't work. Okay.
No.
And when you look at the angular sizes of these things, they're impossible to see. Polaris at 6 light hours away is testably, scientifically, provably too small to see. At 6 light hours away, and they tell us it's 433 light years away. Okay. People just like, well, that's too big of a number for me to process, therefore it has to be real.
Right. I think that's it, is that the scientists and the government have thrown these giant, incomprehensible numbers. And so people are like, oh, people smarter than me have figured it out, so it's fine.
Yeah, and that's like, what I used to think. There's other people that figured it out. And when you go look, you can't get a real answer. Like, how did they figure out the distance to the sun? And they did a calculation assuming Venus was the same size as Earth. Wait a minute. How did you get the size of Venus?
Right.
Well, we just guessed.
Well, all the astrology sciences, all the space sciences in quotation marks,
yeah,
they're all based on assumptions.
It's all assumptions
so
and lies. And lies.
Right. Well, for the people that aren't like us, I'll say assumptions, because surely there are some scientists out there that think that the math that they have been given is correct.
Though the math is correct. The math is correct with the numbers that they are given, but they're given in they figured out the size of the distance of the sun based on trigonometry, with an assumption that the sun is 93 million miles away, or the assumption that the sun is a certain size, and therefore you can make a formula that works. I can make a formula that says you have $6 million in the bank, but it does. But I don't think you do.
I don't. I mean, it's the idea that we could possibly know how far the sun is away is madness. And then I started watching, for all of my Christian friends out there and Christian listeners, I listened to your playlist that's Biblical Flat Earth on YouTube. And I've been consuming a lot of your material.
I recommend that list for non-Christians. It's because
right.
it shows you truths that you'll never see otherwise. I recommend it for everybody. It's amazing.
Well, there was a time where I would have cast it aside, like, oh, the Bible's stupid anyway.
Me
but
too.
Through my journey of finding truth, I'm giving more and more credit to the Bible. Now, I'm not quite at monotheism yet. I'm still a polytheist. About like I lean towards Anunnaki and ancient Sumerian cuneiform tablet history.
From
So
the
there's
Earth plane, fine, not from outer space.
no.
Right.
I also think because I'm a hollow Earth kind of guy, and I think that also works on a flat Earth model
Well,
because we don't know how everybody thinks it's this pizza, this
right.
flat disc traveling through space, and everything else is round, and the Earth is flat. You idiot! And like,
there could be a whole world a mile below us. There could be, who
right,
knows what's down there? The deepest hole ever dug is 7.5 miles or whatever, under 8 miles, and they hit an impenetrable barrier. Maybe that's a lower firmament, as above, so below. Who the heck
right.
knows? But again, I like what your wife said. If they're lying once, they're probably lying about everything. And one of my favorites is the on the space station, they got this lemon up there and they're playing with it and it goes right through their hand. Okay. Which shows you that it's not a real object.
Right.
Yeah.
I watched a lot of those videos too with the harness failures and virtual reality failures. It's just like, what? Wait a minute. What? Like, because I'd never looked at this stuff until I started researching flat Earth.
Right.
And then you see these official NASA videos where it's like, wait a minute. This is obviously bullshit. This is done in a studio. These people are on harnesses.
If they're lying once, they're lying about everything.
Yeah. I mean, you've got a great playlist of Owen Benjamin's, and Owen Benjamin is the one that got me to believe that we didn't go to the moon, because he laid out such a good argument, and I started looking into, whoa, he's saying some crazy shit. And I started looking into it and went, okay, somebody's going to have to convince me that we went at this point. And now I need somebody who thinks we're on a spinning ball to give me a solid, irrefutable, factual evidence that we are on a spinning ball. Because right now, I can prove that we're not.
You know what's amazing in the flat Earth community? You and everybody, we can talk about what this Earth is, and we can have different ideas, and we could figure it out, and and add new ideas. All of that's possible. Impossible is the ball flying through a space vacuum. There's no possibility, and every flat earther sees that. Everyone, right? There's no possibility that we are a ball flying through an infinite space vacuum with gas balls in a vacuum that have more mass than the Rocky balls. I mean, I can't take it. I just can't take it. It's okay. Every day I wake up and I go, do people really believe this shit? I mean, I was one of them, but now when I look back at it, it's like, hopefully in a few years I look back and go, no, I never believed that.
Yeah, the indoctrination is thick. I mean, I've started paying attention. I've watched, because I got a bunch of kids, and so I watch kid movies all the time. And there's globe propaganda everywhere in there. It's crazy.
It's amazing.
So I went through, because my brother got really, really triggered, started calling me a moron and retarded and all of those fun things you get from these triggered people, which he is an anarchist and a Christian.
Did you get him there yet? You got me confused.
No, he blocked me on everything. He won't talk to me. Like, we're no longer able to talk. Like, he got crazy triggered, and he was like, "You're an idiot." And I was like, "Dude, you're believing the people that you think are complete corrupt liars. Just listen.
Just ask him for one proof of the globe. Ask him for one. He'll come back. Photos.
Okay.
Photos.
Okay. So I got you. So I wrote down some of his stuff, and he said,
all right, fine.
He was like, it's basic math and logic.
Ugh.
So, you can go to two different points. I'm gonna do Baller Bob for a minute. Okay. I'm gonna be Baller Bob. You can obviously go to do two different places on the earth, measure your shadows, and figure out that it's round. It's basic math, Dave.
Can I be Double Baller Dave and we'll just have a fun conversation? Yeah, man, you're right. That could only work on a flat Earth. That can only work on a ball Earth. I mean, we know Aristophanes, the story of Aristophanes 2,000 years ago. He did the sticks and shadows. He talked to his buddy 500 miles away with probably a can and a string, maybe. I don't know how he did it, but somehow he did it. And, first he assumed sun rays come in parallel. Okay. Which is like, why would he assume that? No one's ever seen parallel sun rays. And you can do the same math here and tell you the sphericity of this flat area because there's no shadow and a shadow with a small local sun. It works better on a flat Earth because if we were on a ball Earth, we'd all be dead. I mean, because it can't exist.
So wait. So you're telling me that on a flat Earth, you can prove that it's round with shadows?
Well, no. So Baller Bob. So the story that Eratosthenes did is, hey, I'm here. The sun's directly above me. The sun rays are coming in parallel, which is ridiculous. And there's no shadow. He sends his buddy over here, does some measures the angles, the distance, because I guess they counted the steps to figure out how far he went at 50 miles or 500 miles. And you can do some perfectly good math, correct math with those numbers and figure out the sphericity of this. Carl Sagan in the series Cosmos really imprinted that into every kid's head that watched Cosmos, that this will only work on a ball Earth because he has a piece of cardboard with 2 pillars on it, and he bends it and the shadow changes, right? And he goes, that could only work on a ball Earth, but it's not true because they're straw manning us. The sun in the flat Earth model is small and close, no shadow, do the same math and find out the same sphericity of this straight level plane. So again, math is not reality. Math is math.
Right. Yeah. Well, and it can be manipulated. Like I like math because it can tell you truthful things. But if you it's like getting logic, having a logical argument from a false premise.
Right.
So if you start with a false premise, you can argue it logically.
You just need one factor in the equation that's wrong. Let's say, we're figuring out, again, go back to your finances, and I just put a times 50 in there, just a random times 50. Is anything about your equation going to be right?
No. Okay. Back to Baller Bob.
Baller Bob, bring it.
So, airplanes, like our argument, is that the Earth is spinning at 1,000 miles an hour to the east. So airplanes wouldn't be able to fly to the east unless they could go faster than 1,000 miles an hour. But Baller Bob steps in. Yeah, man, but drive in a car and you can throw a ball up in a car and it's going to come down in your hand.
Well, there's 2 different arguments there. One, when people say I can drink a glass of water in an airplane and walk up and down the hallway, I go, yeah, now take the outside of that airplane off and double the speed and see how well you do. Because we're not in an enclosed system. So the argument about the spinning ball is I go at it a different way. When you're on a spinning ball, if you're sitting on the equator, you're moving at 1,000 miles an hour because it's about 24,000 miles around. It goes around once a day, 1 rotation a day. People go, you can't see a clock going around and it's going half the speed, half the rotational speed of the Earth. And I'm like, yes, but 1,000 miles an hour is 1,000 miles an hour. Imagine you're sitting on a merry-go-round. You're on the outside horse on the merry-go-round, just a regular merry-go-round, right? And it's spinning once a day. Are you going to notice you're moving? Probably not, right? It's going so slow. Okay. Now expand that to 10,000 miles wide. And now it's going around once a day, but you're moving much faster. Now expand it out 24,000 miles in circumference. You're sitting on that outside horse. I don't care that it's going around once a day. You're going 1,000 miles an hour. Okay. Somehow all of that air has to be turning with you because it's held on by gravity. But summer breeze can push the air left, right, up, down. There's winds at 40,000 feet that are outrunning the spin of the Earth by a couple hundred miles an hour. The Earth is spinning, and up high, the air is outrunning the spin of the Earth. That right there is a problem. That's
in the same direction.
In the same friggin', and it's going faster. And because it's higher and it's making a bigger circle, it has to be going even faster than 1,000 miles an hour just to keep up with the Earth. Right? Because the higher up you are, the bigger of a circle you're making. So the argument I use is, imagine you're on an airplane sitting on a runway a mile from the North Pole. Well, a mile from the North Pole makes a circle 3.14 miles around every 24 hours. So you're moving at an eighth of a mile per hour, whatever, less than a mile per hour. Okay. You take off on that plane and try to fly to the equator. How do you land on a runway north-south in Ecuador that's moving sideways at 1,000 miles an hour? Where do you get that tangential speed? So and the Glober argument is gravity, man. It speeds you up. It's holding on to you and incrementally speeding you up over this, long trip to the equator. And I just say, enjoy your ball.
The more I think about their arguments, the sillier it gets, right?
You laugh.
It's like, okay, so you're trying to tell me that we're spinning at 1,000 miles an hour, and the atmosphere is not only is the atmosphere coming along for the ride, giving us this impression that we're not moving, but space and stars are also coming along for the ride. So everything is spinning with us, so everything appears to stay still. And it's just such a silly argument that if you leave the solid plane that is moving, that you're moving with it. So another convincing thing that you were talking about on one of your shows was Felix Baumgartner, how he went up, what was it, like 25,000 feet or something?
No, 127.
So 25 miles.
Feet.
He went 25 miles up.
Yeah.
And jumped out. Not only can you see the horizon flat as shit in his portal window.
Yep.
When he's at that incredible 25-mile height, it's flat as shit in the window. But he jumps out and lands, what was it, 20 or 40 miles away from where he took off in the opposite direction.
He outran the spin of the Earth. He landed ahead of where the Earth was spinning to.
Yeah.
Right. And there's a couple things. People go, what about the curve of the Earth? The curve that they show, basically, it shows a solid landmass all over, like a good fifth or quarter of the Earth, and it's all New Mexico. And that's just because they're using a fisheye lens. They did 2 test jumps before, and it was all filmed with regular cameras. And at the last minute, they changed everything to GoPros, and that shows a curve. Anything above halfway will curve downward. Anything below halfway will actually be convex. And but the camera behind his head was a regular camera that looked out the door. So when he opened the door, the horizon at 127,000 feet was right there at his eye level.
Right.
And there's another quick couple frames in the video when he got in on the ground, and the horizon was right there at the exact same level. So he went up 127,000 feet, and the horizon didn't drop at all. What does that tell you?
Exactly. We're not on a ball. We're not on a ball. It's just, for all of my listeners,
you're a moron.
I'm crazy.
You're crazy, dude. I have a challenge for your listeners. I'll tell it at the end. A challenge that I'm offering 2 Bitcoins for one proof of the globe.
So back to Baller Bob. If we were on a flat Earth, you would be able to see the sun from everywhere.
That is assuming you have a distant high sun. I was looking for my Felix Baumgartner picture, but it's gone. So, all right, whatever that. So you're assuming a distant sun. Even in some flat Earth models, they say the sun is 3,000 miles above us. You can do some perfectly good math that says, hey, you should be able to see the sun. But I don't look at the world like that. The domes that we show, I don't believe the dome is nearly that high. The dome is right over the top of the Earth. It's very small or very low. So when you look up, you can see very clearly because you're looking through the atmosphere. It's getting thinner and thinner and cleaner and cleaner. When something is over to the side, it gets lower and lower due to perspective. That's a fact, and we can show you that. And when things go farther and farther away, they get closer and closer to the horizon. They don't go below the horizon. But when you're looking across the air column, it gets very thick. It accumulates and it becomes opaque, and it all gets merged into the horizon. And the example that you can go out and see yourself: go out on a day where there's a nice cloud deck, nice puffy clouds, all sitting on that deck. Look at the cloud over your head. Say, all right, that's 5,000, 10,000 feet, whatever it is. And then if you look out over the water, there's the clouds at 20, 30 miles away are literally touching the horizon. Okay. They're touching the horizon and they merge with the horizon. That's called perspective. And basically they come together, and that's the limit of your vision where it all gets compressed into the horizon. But those clouds aren't really at your eye level. They look like they are, but they're still 5 or 10,000 feet in the air. They just look like they're at eye level. So you have this, I call this ramp of opacity. The higher you get, the farther you can see, but the farther they are, the lower that ramp is. So just due to perspective, the sun, the stars, everything just goes right down into that deck of opacity. And as they go away, they just merge beyond it. And the sun, you can't see the sun. For the distances, the sun actually fades out or gets blocked by the atmosphere when you're looking into the distance. And there's experiments that you can do and observations that you can do and see yourself. On my app, I have there's a section called "Where Does the Sun Go?" And I filmed one of the things I filmed 7 times is I'm here in the East Coast, and when it has to be like 30 degrees below freezing, 0 humidity, super clear day, and the sun will go. I have a drone, and I'll see the sun go down, 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 down. And if the Earth was spinning, it just should keep going, but it doesn't. It gets down to this apparent horizon, and then it just fades away because its light can no longer push through the thickness of the atmosphere. It sat when it went down, it literally stopped, and it sat there for 10 minutes. Now, this isn't something that you can just see. Oh, I've seen tons of sunsets, and they go from the bottom up. My buddies were down at the beach at the same time, and they saw the sunset from the bottom up 10 minutes earlier. How did I still see the sun? And the answer is they're looking across the water, and about 5 miles away, there's trees that are on hills that are hundreds of feet above their eye line, but the tops of those trees look like they're at their eye line. It looks like a horizon. And just due to perspective, because you're below it, things just disappear. Yep. That's how it works. You can do these experiments yourself. And that's it.
The brick experiment that you did at Home Depot, I think, is one that is pretty powerful, because anybody with a phone and 20 minutes can go to Home Depot and do this experiment on a flat and level plane and move the brick further and further back until you can no longer see it, and it just goes away. And then all you got to do is zoom in, and there it is again. What do you know? It went away. You didn't see it. And people don't
or lift the camera up a little bit and you can see it again, because you're changing the angular size. But then you stack more bricks on top of it. You can't see them. The bottom one's missing. Drag it further, the second brick disappears.
Yep. These are easy experiments to do like you have the bucket theory, which I think is really, really cool too, where it's 3 buckets: a flat earth, a globe earth, and both. And nothing will ever be in just the globe earth bucket.
Still looking.
And my brother who claims to be this incredibly smart person that can prove the earth is round with basic math, you retard. I told him, I said, all right, I sent him a link to your website, and I said, this guy is offering 1 Bitcoin if you can prove the earth is round. Since you're such a smart motherfucker, send him your proof and get you an easy $35,000, man.
2 Bitcoins.
Go do it. Or 2 Bitcoins now. I said, go do it. Yeah, it's easy money. Easy money. It'll take you 10 minutes. Go send him your proof and make $70,000. And he was like, whatever, I don't have time for this. Like, okay.
It's amazing that the cognitive dissonance of people is, when they're set in their ways, they don't want to look at anything that could destroy that. An example on a slightly different topic, without saying too much, is there was somebody that went to a vaccination site, long line of people, and says, hey, just want to make sure you're informed. Are you aware of this? I have some information. I'd like to give it to you. Are you informed? Just throwing out some facts from the CDC, and people are like, no, thank, nope. Nobody would even hear it. they're like, are you aware that all of this stuff is happening? Nope, nope, nope. People they just shut down. And it's the same with this, because this is so, it's easy to fool somebody. It's harder to convince them they've been fooled, because once you have something set and you've invested your life into it, and look at everyone's invested. So you don't realize how much you're invested in the ball. You love Star Wars and Star Trek and all these space movies. Well, that's an investment. You all of the things that you've learned in your life are really based around this. So subconsciously, when someone goes, the earth is flat, like, oh, if I look into this and it's real, it's going to really cause me a lot of work. And people don't want to do work. They want to be lazy.
It's pride.
Yeah, it's pride, and it's a lot of work. We're not taught how to think in school. School is an indoctrination camp to teach us how to memorize and regurgitate nonsense and become good little slaves. Yep. That's all school is.
Yeah, they just want us to believe this stuff, and then, knowing that you've been tricked to a level like this is a really, really uncomfortable place, because something like this is the biggest lie. There is nothing bigger than this. And they know that if they can keep you in this lie,
well, this lie is to hide even a bigger lie.
Well, of course.
Yeah.
But if they can hide something this big, they can do anything.
Yeah, they have you believing you're on a speck flying through an infinite universe. They can convince you that somebody gets within 6 feet of you, they could breathe on you and you'll die.
Yep. Yeah, oh, Jesus, these people are stupid. What else can we trick them of?
Yeah.
What else can we get them to believe? And they just go blindly believing things. And I can't do that. I've never been that way. Like, if something's presented with a good argument, like, I'll at least look into it. And
that's great. And me too. And now more than ever. But when I first heard about flat earth, I banned people from our social media forever. For even suggesting that I look into it.
Yeah, so I tell people that most credible flat earthers get into the flat earth movement trying to debunk it.
100%.
And that's how you got here, right? Like, you were trying to disprove it. You thought it was stupid and was like, okay, I'll disprove this easily.
Right, and that's how you become a flat earther.
Yeah, it's just like, oh shit, I can't disprove this. It's like, mathematically there's 11 dimensions, but you can't mathematically disprove it.
Right.
And that's what is good about math, is that you can use it to prove or disprove things. But again, if you're given a false premise first, like, you have to go do the math. Like, you have to go 100%. Do it. So we have to give people experiments they can do, simple, easy experiments they can do. And that's why
here's the thing,
the idea of going to a lake and getting somebody on the other side. I've been talking to my wife a lot about the 8 inches per mile squared drop, and I've been showing her while we're driving. I'm like, see that water tower? That water tower is 20 miles away at least. It's not 160 feet or 120 feet tall. We shouldn't see it. Like,
there's lots of times where things do apparently disappear, or you'll look and you'll see something that's the bottom of it's missing, like a building, the bottom floors are missing, and they'll just say, oh, that matches the earth, the curvature of the earth. But then you go on another day and only half those floors are missing. What happened? Is that a physical curve of the earth, or is that an optical thing? Yes, when you look out over the water, things disappear for multiple reasons. One, they're being magnified. So when they're magnified, they're getting magnified into the horizon. They're getting pushed into the horizon. They're also, as you're looking through the different layers of the air, they're getting compressed. On the top, the balconies are this tall, and on the bottom, the balconies are this tall. What does that tell you? It's compressing. Then when you're looking across water, well, that water is rising up to your eye level, and there could be waves that are closer to you that are getting higher and blocking out. And you can't see that wave. It just looks like a horizon. I call that the wave front edge. Like here, if anyone that's watching, the balconies are compressed at the bottom, right? And then the waves are blocking. So this building I'm showing looks like it's hiding behind the curve. Yep. And it's not. Yeah, and then different days, it's different amounts. What's that?
Of course.
Yeah,
It's perspective, it's atmospheric conditions that
right.
can all play tricks on your eye.
They do.
You know, we've all seen different things. You know, as an adult, you've seen things where perspective changed everything, but then, you know, you equate it to perspective, but then this one thing you refuse to put perspective in. I mean, anybody that stood on the beach has seen those shipping container ships way out in the distance on the horizon.
Right.
Those things are dozens of miles away and should be well below the curve of the earth. But you're looking at it, you know, our vision is supposed to be what the limit of our vision is, something like 20 miles or
Well, no,
something
no,
like that.
it's the angular size. A 6 foot tall person standing on the edge of calm water should only see 3 miles.
Really?
The water should dip below them at 3 miles. It should be a 6 foot curve at 3 miles.
Oh, yeah. It, that 8 inches per mile squared really puts things in
And now
perspective.
someone that'll go at 8 inches per mile squared, if they actually calculate it out, it makes a parabola. And so it doesn't work at distances that are like thousands of miles. Well, guess what? We don't need it for that. We just need it for the first couple hundred, which it's perfectly fine for. It
Yep.
works perfectly well. You know, and when you're looking out over the water, there's so many optical illusions out there. You don't know what you're looking at. There was recently a picture of a crew of a ship floating in the air. Okay. So this was it was crazy. All of these science journals and magazines and just news reports, and they're like, well, it's because it's being elevated. It's not really there. It's over there. No, they're making all these excuses, saying that it's floating in the air, and that's because it's not floating in the air. It's sitting on the water. It's just sitting. The horizon is behind them, and it's on smooth water. And in the foreground, there's windy water that has a different tone to it. So people think this is the horizon, when in reality, the horizon's way beyond the boat.
Yeah, it was like there is still mirages that can mask things and,
Absolutely.
you know, make things look weird. I mean, what I've wanted to tell people is, like, if you had a hallway, and I think even something more relevant would be a line of people. We were talking about the lines of people lining up for these stupid vaccines. If you had a line of people lining up for, you know, this fucking stupid jab a mile long, you're not going to see past, probably you're not going to see anybody past a few hundred yards. They're going to get so small aspect wise that you're never going to see the end of the line, even at a mile long. So, you know, if you have a really long hallway, you don't see the end of it.
I was in Las Vegas, and the hallway was so long. I went to one end. At the far end, it looks like the lights were touching the floor.
Yeah. And, you know, most people will agree that, you know, because of aspect, if you look down railroad tracks, they meet at the horizon.
Right.
You know, and so they not only is it this cognitive distance, it's this complete lack of logic. Like, okay, like it's selective logic, right? It's like,
Yeah.
okay,
Why do they meet at the horizon? Why don't they meet before the horizon? Or why wouldn't they meet after the horizon? If you put railroad tracks on the moon, would they dip over the horizon before they meet? Getting back to the Coriolis, before the spin of the Earth, and you know, they say snipers have to. That's the big argument for the ballers. Snipers have to calculate for Coriolis. Okay, there's one video of this sniper. You know, it's just a shill video. It's not true. We've talked to many snipers, and they're like, no, we don't calculate for Coriolis. But let's say you got someone in your scope 2 miles away, 3 miles away, whatever it is. So what do you got to figure out which direction you're facing, the spin of the Earth. Then you got to take them out of your scope and then hook the bullet around. I mean, how would you even do that? How would you even calculate it? You know, I guess you can have the scope turn a little bit and move the gun, and you keep them in, you know, it's that way. It's the dumbest thing ever. But then you watch hot air balloons. They just float in the air, and the Earth isn't spinning off from underneath them. So the solution, if to make snipers have an easier job, is just put them on balloons. Then they don't have to worry about the Coriolis effect.
Well, yeah, the idea, well, and haven't people done experiments where people have shot a bullet over a mile and dropped a bullet and they hit the ground at the
Yeah,
same time?
right. They fall at the same
how
rate.
does that work? How does it, wouldn't the bullet that shot hit the ground after the one that you dropped because of the curve of the
Because
earth,
of the drop?
because it's curving and the fall of the earth? The earth is falling out from underneath the bullet.
Yeah, it's a hard one. It's a really hard one to prove that, because, you know, if you're off a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a millimeter in the level, then it's going to be going on an upward or downward trajectory. And so
Right.
that's super tough to do. But, you know, they've done it with just a handgun and a bullet, and they do drop at the same rate. So when you're shooting something in the distance, you might have to lift up. You might have to adjust for wind. Okay, like if you're shooting a bomb. But the fact that we can see that far, there's you know, ships on the horizon, you know, can gunner guys with the operating the weaponry, they can see other ships over 100 miles away. Well, there should be a wall of water in between them, 6,600 feet high.
It's insanity. When you really start looking at the math, it's insane.
Yeah.
Like the Earth's gravity. Okay, so let's talk about things that are large, have mass, which I think is
prove it.
Yeah, right. But so the Earth's gravity that is created by its mass is so powerful that it can bend water, but birds can fly. Like, how is it so selectively strong that it can hold water to its surface, yet a feather can float gently to the ground?
Right.
And it's like, wait a minute, is it a really strong force or is it not? And then if the larger things have, the more mass they have, and Earth is so powerful it can hold water to it, why are we not sucked into the sun? Why did we stop? Does gravitational pull stop?
If gravity can pull the water, if gravity can pull the water, why doesn't it just pull it right off the Earth?
Right.
Right.
Well, the moon pulls water with tides, so they say, which I think is complete bullshit, because you don't have tides on lakes, no matter how big the lake is.
Right.
So that just proves that fucking theory right there. But wouldn't the sun, with its massive gravitational pull, also have an effect on the tides? Like,
well, they say it does, but you know, when you have the sun and the moon on one side of the Earth and there's a high tide there, how come there's a high tide on the other side of the Earth? And the answer that they give, this is ridiculous, that the gravity is pulling the water away from the Earth on making that hump. And then the water on the other side of the Earth is actually pulling the Earth away from the water, which creates the other hump. Is that the dumbest thing you've ever heard?
Well, Neil deGrasse Tyson says there's a bulge of water at the equator caused by the spin of the Earth.
14 miles high.
So the Earth is spinning so fast that it creates a 14-mile bulge, but we don't feel it.
Right.
Like, and then
we don't see it. Where's the best viewing spot for that? I'd like to see it.
Well, there's that too. But there's people that live on the equator. How are they not spinning so fast that they're being thrown 14 feet or 14 miles into the air? Like,
the Maldives Islands are like a foot above sea level. There's like no tide there. There's no bulge. And and if you're taking an airplane flying from the north to the south, at what point do you climb an extra 10 miles, 3 times your height, to get just to skim over the bulge? Just to skim over it. Hey, we're passing the equator. Everybody look down. The water's 100 feet below the plane.
Well, 14 miles. People don't understand how high that is.
It's high.
A mile is 5,000 feet.
Right.
So 14 miles is over 50,000 feet.
Yeah.
We're talking almost 100,000 feet. You could fit the Empire State Building in that bulge.
More than that. 14 miles.
Yeah, 14 miles. I'm thinking feet again. But like,
you could fit a whole bunch of Empire State Buildings.
Yeah. Like, it's it just gets sillier and sillier
It's
the more you
ridiculous.
think about it. And
Yeah.
so when these people call me morons, I'm like, I'm not the idiot here. I'm using fact and logic to figure this shit out.
It's amazing. The people that defend the globe don't even know their model. Witsit Gets It. Austin is cruising around the United States on a tour. He's actually coming to visit me today, and he goes around and he just starts preaching with his he gets on his soapbox and people start listening, and he offers people, he goes, I got $100 if you can answer 3 questions. 3 simple questions about your globe. How many times does it spin in one day? Half the people get that wrong. Okay.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Then he says, like, how fast is what speed is it spinning at? Everybody gets that wrong. How fast is the orbit? How far is the sun? Everyone gets it wrong. No one gets it and these are the people that defend their model. They're defending their model. They don't even know it. And they know more about what the flat earth model isn't. And they believe it is. Like, they believe, flat earth is a pizza floating in space, or flat earth is right. They did a little research, flat earth society, they end up at the flat earth society. They're like, flat earthers believe that the earth is rising at 9.8 meters per second, and that causes gravity. No, we don't. Right. No. So they don't know their own model, and they have a stupid idea of what our model is. They think we're stupid. I agree with them. If we believe what they think we believe, we are stupid, but we don't.
Well, and here's the thing. We don't have to have all the answers. It's like promoting anarchy, and people are like, well, what are you going to do about police? And it's like, well, I don't exactly know. And it's probably going to be different everywhere. Like, I don't need to have an answer for every question to know that government is bad. And most anarchists will agree with that statement. We don't have to have all the answers to know that having a centralized government is the wrong system. We don't have to have all the answers to know that the globe model is bullshit.
Yep.
There's very simple things you can do. One of the things that I really I hadn't even thought about, that I don't remember if it was you or Owen that I heard talking about it, was craters. And I talked to my wife about it the other day, and she was like, okay, stop. You're hurting my brain. And I was like, why are craters all perfect circles? Why are they all perfect circles? All of them. All of them. None of them are oblong. So every single meteor strike was a perpendicular strike, perfect into our Earth and the moon that has hundreds of thousands of freaking craters.
Right. The craters are the Earth bubbling up. There's bubbles coming out of the Earth. If you go look at like Yellowstone or whatever, where they have these geysers, they have these craters with an upturned edge and a little thing in the middle. And you go look at like craters that, that they say were giant impacts, millions of years ago. Look at them at the center. There's lots of vegetation, and that's because that's where the water is. That's where, that's where it was something that was bubbling up year ago. And maybe thousands of years ago, hundreds of years ago, tens of years ago, who knows how old these things are. And, they're bubbles. Look up methane bubbles in not Alaska, in Siberia, Siberian methane bubbles, I think. You'll see these things are being created all the time.
Well, there's methane bubbles that have swallowed entire ships that have been sailing on the sea, and a methane bubble comes up underneath them and just sucks them down. And so those are provable scientifically.
It makes the water less buoyant, right? Because there's so much air in the water coming up, and the ship will sink into it. Sure, I haven't seen it myself. Makes perfect sense. But I believe it's true. Haven't verified it.
And then I think I'm kind of bouncing all over because I know we're fairly limited on time, and I want to touch on a lot of stuff. You said that the Bermuda Triangle, which is interesting, is possibly been deemed this bad place because of where all the space rockets are being shot. So let's talk about space and NASA for a minute, and how NASA has been controlling the narrative for a really long time. They control all of space information, all of it.
Yeah.
If it comes from space or whatever.
Well, now it's controlled SpaceX. By NASA. They're private, How could they be in on it? Well, they're not. Right. They're NASA. I mean, it's all nonsense. Yeah. Elon Musk is is just a shill for the U.S. for the government. And nothing he says is true. None of the companies he says he started or runs, he didn't start, and he doesn't run. He's just a front man to help manipulate the minds of the sleeping masses.
He's gotten hundreds of billions of dollars from the federal government, and I'm thinking now that he was a complete fabrication of Warner von Braun, because Warner von Braun wrote a book about Elon that goes to Mars.
Yeah, Elon goes to Mars. Exactly.
Like
and they even has the picture of his rocket on it, and that was built in the 1950s. Wrote that. It's all a stage. It's called Project Mars. And the rocket on the cover is pointier than Elon's rocket, but Elon tweeted a month ago he wants to make his Mars rocket pointier. I mean, they're just mocking us. They're just completely and totally mocking us.
And the fact that these rockets that you've shown, they bounce, they do all of this weird stuff. When they go up, if you watch a space shuttle shoot into the sky, it curves. And when
every rocket they shoot curves.
When you said that when they curve, they're curving at such a velocity that everybody inside would die, I started thinking about that, and I was like, man, that's
the speed, the acceleration, with the amount of time that the engines are running, they have to get up to like 25,000 miles an hour, right? So that acceleration, you've seen the Tesla car commercials, not to get on Elon, just the car is a fast car, 0 to like 60 in like 2 or 3 seconds or something, right? You see people's like eyeballs go back in their head. The acceleration is insane. I went on a roller coaster. I went to a Great Adventure it was a special night where we were invited there. There were only like a couple thousand people in the entire park, so there was no lines for everything. And there's a famous roller coaster called the King de Ka. And basically you get on this roller coaster and it takes off. You accelerate from 0 to 60 in like 2 seconds. And then it goes straight up over the top, spirals down, goes around and comes back. You're back in 12 seconds. Okay. The entire ride. Okay. It is the craziest thing ever. Right. So literally wind went into my eyeballs because my eyeballs went back in my head. Right. On the space shuttle, when it's taking off, they're increasing 200 miles an hour. I'm rounding down 200 miles an hour, like every 3 seconds for like 8 minutes. It's ridiculous. If you look at and then you'll see pictures of people in the rockets where they got like a little cane and they're pushing buttons. They wouldn't be able to lift their friggin' arms.
Yep.
Right? It's insane.
The centrifugal force would be overwhelming.
Yeah.
I mean, fighter pilots at hundreds of miles an hour have to wear compression suits and go through all this training, because just banking at 400 miles an hour can make you pass out.
I was watching a video not too long ago. The astronauts taking off and they're showing them astronauts in there. And one guy opens up a pack of like Skittles and he's eating Skittles during the acceleration. I mean, he was hungry. He was eating. He broke out a little pack of candy or something and started eating.
There's no fucking way that could happen.
Yeah, there's no way.
It's just not possible.
Yeah.
The force, the G-force just
think about this.
On your chest.
I've been in hurricanes, 150 mile an hour winds, and it is friggin' crazy, right? 150 mile an hour wind is insane. It, rips trees out of the ground and whatnot. A tornado, a heavy tornado is like 300 mile an hour winds, and that will tie metal poles in knots. That'll turn trees into splinters. That'll pull cement out of the ground. Okay. That's a 300 mile an hour wind. And we'll say that's room temperature. I don't know, 60, 70, 80 degrees that could be happening in. Okay. When a rocket takes off, it is shooting out superheated, multi-thousand degrees thrust, lifting 4 million pounds. So the amount of thrust is coming out at over 20,000 miles an hour, right? Because it's got to push this thing to 25,000 miles an hour just to break orbit, they say, or its final speed is 17,500 miles an hour. The amount of thrust coming out, superheated. It's a little faster than 300 miles an hour if it's 17 or 20,000 miles an hour. And the little fence at the beginning of the takeoff that's sitting around it doesn't even shake. You know, it would destroy, it would atomize everything around. Like this, I'm showing a little fence here. This thing would just pulverize. It would just bend over. It would turn into atoms.
Well, if nothing else, it would melt. It would,
right.
like,
And they say, well, no, there's a jetway, but there's a thing below it, and it pushes the smoke out to the side. As soon as that thing is a foot off the ground, it's not going. It's spreading out. When it, you know, you've seen the pictures of people that there's a beach right on a runway, and when the planes go there, and the people get right in the jet wash, and they get kind of blown back, and they hold onto the fence. That's a jet engine. What? How fast is that's pushing it out at a couple 100 miles an hour and not superheated, right?
Right.
And it's devastating. They had a truck drive by an engine that was on. They had a jet, and they tested, and the truck just was like picked up in the air, tumbled around, and went into the pond. Went into the water, right? And look at this. When the rockets go off, the smoke doesn't even change. It doesn't even push the smoke away. You watch a rocket take off, there's just the smoke at the bottom. It's the dumbest crap ever, and people just believe it. I mean, if you've watched the SpaceX, the launches, they're ridiculous. I mean, they have the I call it the grain silo. This thing weighs millions of pounds, and it just floats up into the sky magically. And it's not even pushing the smoke away because the smoke isn't even real. Okay.
Right. It's complete bullshit. The space, but I've seen, like, I've looked up in the sky and seen the little formation in the sky that was apparently the SpaceX test, and was like, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
And I mean, I can't explain it, but
well, there are craft in the air. When I've seen the ISS, what they say is the ISS. The ISS, I believe, is a U-2 modified bomber that has bright LED lights on the bottom of it. And, there's times where you can see them, you can see the pass for 8 minutes. Well, I'm here in Connecticut. I can see it for 8 minutes as it goes horizon to horizon. Well, 8 minutes times 17,000 miles an hour is going from like California, going from the East Coast to the West Coast. So I can see it when it's traveling that far. How come people, like, I'm in Connecticut, how come people in New York can't see it? How come people in Ohio can't see it? If I'm seeing it go that far, everyone should be able to see it.
Yeah.
And the answer is it's something smaller and closer. It's just an airplane that's going from horizon to horizon. And they have 5 of these things that are in different places around the world, and they just take turns and they turn the lights on. Oh, there it is, and literally it's a production to make us keep believing in space. Well, why would they spend all this time and money to make you believe in space? It's about control, because when you wake up to this stuff, you unplug from the fear matrix. Yep. And they need us in that fear matrix.
Oh, they need us there. But that, speaking of fear, which I think that has a lot to do with my next statement. So you're telling me there's hundreds, possibly thousands of people involved in this lie, this cover up? How could that be possible?
Yeah, it's not. Well, they can't even keep a blowjob a secret. That's and I think that was done for that very reason, just to say, government can't keep it a secret. Every pilot, excuse me. These globe trolls, they straw man us. They're like, that means every pilot, every scientist, every teacher, every professor, they would all be in on it. No, they're not. There's lots of pilots that aren't in on it, but guess what? There's lots of pilots, especially the long distance pilots, the ones that do southern routes. They know, and they can't talk about it because when they do, they get fired. Yep. So, there's lots of people that know about it, more and more every day because of shows like this. And people are waking up. There's people that try to speak out. A Polish astronaut spoke out, and he said, well, we've never been to space. And then no one's ever seen him. Who knows what happened to him after that? Buzz Aldrin said to a little girl, she asked, why do we didn't go back to the moon? And he goes, well, because we never went. And that's the way it is, and who knows what happened to him for that, again.
I mean, there's no telling what they have on all of these people either. Like, hey, you need to keep your mouth shut. We'll make you infinitely wealthy, but if you say a single thing,
we'll kill your whole
we
family.
will ruin you.
We'll kill
We
your
will
whole
ruin
family.
your
That's
career.
how they
We'll
do it.
murder your family.
Right.
We like you're done.
Right.
And I think that's a big part of it, because
100%.
I've heard pilots that spoke out. They got their license stripped and they can't get a pilot's job anymore.
Right.
And then we have, again, hidden in plain sight, we have the UN flag is a flat earth, the maritime organization that is a flat earth flag, the
Right.
aviation organization that is a flat earth flag. And pilots learn on a flat earth model and never adjust for the curve.
And all the modeling says assume a flat, non-rotating earth plane. Why would they say that?
And then when you look at emergency landings
Yep.
across the globe, the only way where these landings happen makes sense is on a flat earth model. It's the only thing that makes sense. And a lot of the flights, when you're flying from LA to Japan, why the fuck do you fly over Alaska?
The answer is because you fly over Alaska, because the earth is flat.
like and people are like, oh well, it's the shortcut, it's up and over, or some
they go, well, it's the Great Circle route. What the hell does that mean? So if I show you like a line on a globe like this, but it looks like a straight line, but if you look at it, it's a curve, right? So going from Taiwan to LA on a globe, just draw a straight line between them. It's a curved line over the globe, but that's not how they fly. They fly all the way, they fly a straight and level line from Taiwan to Los Angeles, and it goes right over Alaska. It doesn't go anywhere near Hawaii.
Well, and there's been flights from LA to Taiwan that had to emergency land, and they landed in Alaska.
Right.
It's like, wait, why?
Yeah.
And there's so many examples of that. So many examples of it. It's insane. And I believe through what I've heard from you and some research that they grounded the Concorde airplane because it went too high and you didn't see any curvature of the earth, because it flew at something like 40 or 50,000 feet, some insane, or even 100,000 feet. Where
I heard some people that had taken it, they said it was weird because at certain times they tell people to close the windows on one side of the plane because they're going to be passing the sun.
What?
Well, on a globe Earth, you could say, okay, well, oh yeah, the sun's going to be on that side of the window. It's going to be too bright, whatever. And they asked everyone to close their windows. I look at it a different way. They say close your windows.
They're going to be passing
the sun because it's right there. It's right there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and to talk about the firmament, like you said earlier, is you don't know how high it is. Well, if we go by NASA, space is 63 miles before you're out of the atmosphere, something like that.
Yeah. So we, if the firmament was 63 miles, or let's just round up 200 miles. Okay. Go look at a Gleason's map, right? And if you look at a Gleason's map, here's one. 200 miles. Well, Connecticut is right here. Connecticut is let's say Connecticut's 200 miles. It's that little tiny thing. So put a dome over this thing where the center is 200 miles above it. It's you wouldn't even realize it's a dome, right? It's really a low-lying dome. But when we see illustrations of the flat Earth, we show an exaggerated dome.
Well, so you can tell what's being talked about.
Right. So again, a lower dome makes a lot of sense. Again, people say, well, how come the biggest argument that I've been getting lately, and it changed. It's really weird how all of a sudden everyone's asking the same question. People ask the same question all the time, and it's, well, you can't see can you see the Polaris from Australia? And the answer is no. Well, and then they go, well, then the Earth is a globe. I'm like, no, it's just too far away. It's like the lights in that hallway in Vegas. If the hallway was twice the length, I wouldn't be able to see the lights at the far end of the room. And that's without even the atmosphere blocking it. You can't see Polaris because it's too low on the horizon. The atmosphere is too thick, period. Too far, too small. You can't see it. But there has been reports. There was an observatory that got shut down. It was 30 degrees south in South America, and it saw Polaris many times on clear nights. That's impossible on a globe. It would be miles of dirt in the way.
Well, so let's talk about seeing these things and light. So a lot of people think that light just goes on forever, and it'll never fade out. And if you have a light source, it goes on unless it's blocked or whatever. So tell me, why is that bullshit? Like, you've done some math where I think it was at a certain distance, light gets cut down by a certain amount. Can you go through
It's called the inverse square law of light. Every time you double the distance to a light, it gets 1/4 of the brightness. Okay. So, for example, if we're looking at the moon, think about the moon on a clear, full moon night, and you're away from everywhere. The moon is so bright, you can drive without needing a light. It casts shadows on the ground. All right. So a moon on a full moon night, I don't know, it's multiple lumens. Lumens is a measurement of light, but let's just give the globe every benefit of the doubt. Let's call it 1 lumen. It's way more than that. 1 lumen. Well, if you went halfway to the moon, it's 4 lumens. Cut that in half, it's 16 lumens. Keep doing that until you get to about 100 miles from the moon, and it's tens of millions of lumens. Do you know what happens when you look at a light tens of millions of lumens?
Oh, you're blind.
Your face vaporizes, I think.
Yeah, you're done.
Yeah. And we're supposed to believe the dusty, dirty ball of the moon is 10 millions of lumens, so we can see it at the brightness that we see it. No, it's ridiculous. It's the dumbest thing ever. If people believe, hey, Mars is 25 million miles away, and they show us all these pictures of Mars, dusty, dirty ball. And when you see Mars in the sky, it's brighter than any star. How is that possible? How is Mars, the dusty, dirty ball, that's really Greenland or Devon Island, how is that sending light back brighter than a star? And the answer is because it's not. It's a light. It's here. It's within the Earth system. It's our optics have outgrown their lives. You get a super zoom camera, go buy a P1000 or P900, and you look at Mars, it's a pulsing orb of energy here within the Earth system. Yeah. It's close by.
I mean, it has to be. I mean, I can't explain what stars are, and we've been looking at the stars at night now, and I'm like, man, this changes everything, because now I have no idea what that shit is. I have no idea what that is up there, but I know I'm not standing on a ball spinning through Earth at spinning through the universe at imaginable rates of speed. Like, I know that that's not happening. So what is this stuff?
But just believe it. That way your brother won't think you're crazy anymore. Just believe. Yeah. Believe.
I quit giving a shit that people think I was crazy a long time ago. So if they think I'm crazy for this, I really don't care, because it just means you haven't done the deep dive. You haven't started to really think about it, because when you really, really start thinking about it and start really making factual, logical analysis of what is given to us, the information that we can observe, that we can do, the experiments that we can do, there's only one conclusion. We're not on a spinning ball. That's verifiable. That we're just not on a spinning ball.
100%. So it's a fact, and it's how they control us. They want us spinning out of control, lost in space, so we really cannot find out who we are and take back our true power. They want us to believe that people have control over us, and when in fact the only control they have on you is in your imagination. Yep. Just like the only thing that's gone to space is your imagination.
Yeah, and I think it's once they have that control, like we said earlier, man, they can do anything, and they want you to trust them and not trust yourself. You can't even trust your own senses.
They want you to believe in nonsense rather than common sense.
Right. They want you to distrust yourself.
Yeah, that's right. They want to take away your God-given common sense.
Yep.
And they replaced it with nonsense. And if you're too stupid, what's going on right now in the world is an intelligence test, and a lot of people are going to fail. Okay, that's what's happening
Yep.
in the world right now. It's an intelligence test. So again, they want to control us. The thing is, here, when people find us out, they're like, "Well, what difference does it make? I still got to go to work. There's nothing I can do about it." That's what they want you to believe. That's the
Yep.
psyop right there. They don't want you to know that they need you to believe it. Otherwise, they can't control you. They can't just kill us. Otherwise, they probably would have.
Yeah.
They can't break our free will.
Right. And they can't kill us in mass. And what I'm telling people, and a lot of people are through, luckily, the Rona hysteria and all of that, a lot of people that do have at least partially functioning brains are getting out of the cities. They're trying to be more self-sufficient. Agorism is growing. We're working on trying to start a farm.
Nice.
We're in the next year, we're moving out of the city onto some acreage, getting self-sufficient, and just removing ourselves from the system, because I don't want to wait around in the city for this shit to calm down or get to where it's not completely insane. So we're bugging out. We're getting out of here, and that's what I suggest everyone.
Better hurry, my friend.
Yeah. Yeah. Within the next year, we're going to be out on acreage in the middle of nowhere. I don't care. I'm done.
Yeah, I get it. Hey, we gotta wrap it up. Any final thoughts?
Man, just that I appreciate all the work that you're doing out there, man. You were the first person that presented the flat earth argument in a way that I could digest and make sense of, where it made me start questioning everything. And then I kind of forgot about it, and then got back into it listening to a podcast recently that you were on. And I think it was Union of the Unwanted. And I was like, holy shit, I got to go back down this rabbit hole. And I did, man. And I popped out on this flat fucking earth.
It's
so
once you get over the shock of it and being pissed off, you become more empowered. Life is more interesting. You will lose some friends because they're not going to wake up, but you'll gain some new friends. Yeah, and it is what it is. And the thing is, we have the upper hand because all of our baller friends, ex-friends, they may become flat earthers one day. So they'll come back. They have no hope that we'll ever go back to the ball, because once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Yeah, it's the same as the rest of the theater. Once it's seen, it can't be unseen.
Yeah. The stage is the world is such a stage that the guy that said that, Shakespeare, didn't even exist because he was a fake person. Okay.
There's so many created people in this weird ass freaking world.
Yeah, it's a stage. The world is a stage, and the guy who said it isn't real. Okay.
Yep.
That's how much of a stage it is. For this, I'm sure you have my app, the Flat Earth Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app. It's the best way to learn about flat Earth, because if you spend 500 hours, that's a big commitment, looking into flat Earth, you're going to give up. You're going to find nonsense. You're going to find 2 hours worth of good content if you're lucky, because Google isn't going to give it to you anymore. The Flat Earth Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app does. And the challenge I give is watch the featured video every day for 2 weeks. If you still think the Earth is a globe, you're probably an idiot, but if you do, I retract that. You're probably just brainwashed, like we all were. And go to the frequently asked questions and see if your answer is answered there. It probably is. If you still think you have a proof, send it to me, and you'll win 2 Bitcoins if you're right. Yep. But so far, no one's been able to do it.
That is a hell of an incentive. So everybody download that app. I also suggest your YouTube page, which is Deep in the Rabbit Hole.
DITRH. It's just the initials for Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole. And it's got lots of short videos there. The app's $2.99. For Android, you need operating system 8.0 or higher, or it won't even show up in your store. And Apple, you need an iPhone 6 or better. It works on iPads beautifully. And people love it. Just read the reviews. It's $2.99. People asked, they said, hey, Dave, can you add this? Can you add this? And it costs a lot of money. People say, put a donation button on there so we can help fund the app. And I said, that's a cool idea, but they don't allow a donation button. So I put a subscribe button on. What happens is when you have the app, a little pop-up will pop up, go, would you like to subscribe for 99 cents or $11 for the year? And you can exit out immediately. There's no ads. There's nothing. And it only shows up once a day. So for the rest of the day, it won't show up again. The next day, you open up the app, pop up, exit out, it's gone. You do not need to subscribe. But if you want to, feel free.
Yeah. Well, I think we need to support the people that we think are doing good work.
Yeah.
So
I say
I tell people support podcasters, support the truth seekers.
Absolutely.
Because if doing this stuff isn't cheap, even just doing podcasts, but having an app like y'all have, I can't imagine that.
Oh, it goes
doesn't soak up a ton of money and time.
It does. It soaks up more time than you could imagine, and the more people that use it, the more it costs. So, feel free to subscribe or not subscribe, but just read the reviews. It's the highest rated app in the Google Play Store and the App Store. It's number one in its category, and it hasn't even started yet. So, and there's also Globe Trolls in there that, luckily it's $3, so they don't want to spend the $3 so they can downvote it, but some of them do. But it doesn't make a difference because too many people love it. Just read the reviews. You'll become a flat earther by reading the reviews.
Yeah. And don't get the fake one.
Yes.
There's a masquerader out there.
By the Ron Media Group, which is like Globe Trolls, Flat Earth Society people.
Yeah.
Don't get it because, you can get it. Just don't send me an email telling me my app sucks because it's not my app.
Tell people what your podcasts are. And
my podcast, my Facebook page, my Instagram is The Flat Earth Podcast. The website, theflatearthpodcast.com, and the YouTube channel, the initials for Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole, DITRH. And that's it. Check it out. You can find everything on theflatearthpodcast.com. If you get confused with all the stuff I just said, pretty easy. Or you can just search the App Store for the Flat Earth Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app. Long name. Or if you're watching this, just point your camera at this QR code.
Awesome. Dave, I really appreciate you coming on, man. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and I hope we can do more work in the future, man.
All right, man. Thanks. Appreciate it. And spread the word. Spread the word out there. Anybody listening that has a podcast with an audience, reach out. info@theflatearthpodcast.com. Love to talk to you, especially if you think the Earth is a globe.
Yeah. Let's change minds, brother.
Yep.
All right, man.
All right, Bob.
Have a good rest of your day. We'll see.
Thanks.
The Flat Earth Sun and Moon Clock app. A dynamic new app to teach family and friends about where they actually live. The sky is a perfect clock. The sun measures the hours and days. The moon measures the weeks and months. The star constellations measure the seasons and years. 1212 or 24-hour clock face. Or go hands-free. The Flat Earth Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app with new added features. World Time. See what time it is all around the flat Earth. A true Earth compass that shows true navigation across and around the flat Earth plane. Weather. Tap for detailed local weather information. Know what phase and where the moon is at all times. Watch the sun travel between the tropics for the seasons. Select an amazing background. Add your own or have the app change it to a new one automatically every time you use the app. Add a countdown to your next big date. Learn the truth about our world with the featured video of the day. Web button for additional flat Earth related features, from the mythical curve calculator all the way to Tartaria. While talking to friends, easily pull up pictures that expose the globe lie and shine light on the flat Earth truth. Video playlists in different languages. See the real trade winds circling the flat Earth. And clean screen features. Simply click off the items you don't wish to see. The Flat Earth Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app is the best tool to show your friends and strangers how our flat Earth actually works.